This episode is brought to you by Whatnot. If you want £10 to spend on anything on Whatnot, sign up with the link below this podcast. Enjoy the episode. Welcome back to Gunners R Us podcast, where we are positively Arsenal, and that we are here on a Monday morning. Yes, this is the second episode of the week, as always now. On that Monday, instant reaction from the weekend. We won't get too much into previewing anything as far as midweek or next week or anything like that. It'll be over on the Patreon. So if you want to get involved in the Patreon, please go to the link below. And also on Wednesday with Joe, we'll be kind of getting ready for that evening, which is against Brighton. Big game. But this weekend's been interesting. And I think, dare I say it, I think it is a podcaster's dream, that game home to Chelsea. Because albeit it wasn't the funnest watch, albeit a great result, it was just one of those that there's so much to digest and take away from the game and the weekend of games, and so much happened. I mean, it was one of those weekends where there was goals flying in everywhere. I mean, on Sunday, 4 games played, all 4 were home 2-1 wins, and on the Saturday you had kind of low-scoring games either side of the 3 o'clocks, which were just goals galore, silly decisions, looking at Burnley, Brentford, some weird decisions even in the Liverpool game, some potential weird ones in the City game, some potential weird ones in the Arsenal game, and we'll get to all of that today here on the pod. So this is going to be the recap of the weekend we just saw, mainly focusing obviously on the Arsenal-Chelsea game, but I'll kind of dabble in some of the others when we talk about bad decisions over the weekend. But we'll start where we mean to go on, which is here on Gunners R Us. Check us out on iTunes and Spotify. Give us a 5-star review. Again, like I said, the Patreon right at the start. Thank you to Whatnot for being our sponsor. If you want £10 off anything, please click that link below. And obviously, as always, we're still sponsored by SeatGeek, TBA Wrestling, for $20 off your first purchase. So especially if you're listening in the States and you use SeatGeek a lot, please let people know about that, because we get a little kickback and it means we can kind of get cooler things going on the pod. So where do I start? I think you kind of have to start with City, because I think when we previewed this over on the Patreon, the preview was not just a preview. It was of Arsenal, Chelsea. It was a preview of Ellen Road, Leeds, Man City, and also a little reaction to that, the big news in the Champions League. We'll get more into Champions League draw on Wednesday with Joe when we kind of get over the week that was and talk about the week that's coming. So everything's going to come in pairs. I honestly feel like maybe this season's going to be, from now to the end, everything's going to come in pairs. Every preview is going to come with a City preview. Every review is going to come with what happened in the City game, and then we're going to play City. And there's also this crazy chance that by now and the end of the season, could the season come down to us in City? It looks that way. The Carabao Cup already has come down to us. Could the FA Cup and the Champions League somehow, we can meet them in the Champions League final? Could we be in a situation where this season we're just tied to the hip? We could be looking at 3 finals, 2 games in the league, 5 games, massive ramifications. And it's been an interesting one, because when you look at the whole season as a whole, I think they've been pretty average. I think we kind of were the best of a bad bunch. I think they went and made some unbelievable signings, and I know they're talking about people going, "Oh, their turn of form has been unbelievable." Probably because they bought the 2 best players in the league that weren't in the top 6. They went and bought the best centre back outside the top 6, and they went and bought the best forward outside the top 6, dare I say. And he's been a perfect fit. I think both of them have, and there's a huge benefit, and I will talk about this a little bit with the set pieces as well. England have got to take a lot from this, because Mark Gahey was going to probably end up playing in the World Cup anyway. But these extra games he's going to get from January to the end of the season, big games, big opposition, Real Madrid's, and, underneath Pep as well. We're only going to gain from that in the summer and the years going on, as are we with set pieces, because I'd say the 3 best set pieces deliverers in the league this year are probably Declan Rice, Saka, and Reece James. And that is going to come into forefront in a minute when we talk about the Arsenal-Chelsea game. But just we're so paired with them at this point. Later in the podcast, when we talk about the Arsenal-Chelsea game, I'm going to talk about just narratives and just how annoying they're getting. But with the Man City game, I didn't actually see the first half because I was driving, and I had it on radio, and I didn't realize that it was going to open up a core memory of listening to football on the radio is like a childhood memory, and it's like a nice memory, like twilight evening, maybe in the winter, you're in the back seat as a kid, and you could just hear that kind of ruffled sound of like Five Live or something, and you're kind of getting really excited, but really they just crossed the halfway line. But the guy is like, "Oh my god, they're streaming away in packs." And then when you watch the highlights back, you're like, "This is what he was talking about, and this isn't dangerous at all." But that memory is great, and with it, I kind of could feel the fact that, and I've gone back obviously watched the highlights, but Leeds were all over them. Really started well for 30 minutes. Looked really dangerous. Should have probably got a goal or two. They didn't. And I know there's a narrative online that is being in a title race from Liverpool fans and now Arsenal fans in the last few, that being in a title race with City is watching them not play very well against opposition you expect them to beat, and the other team missing loads of sitters before they inevitably go on and win it. And I think that is more narrative than truth, but it does feel that way. Like I remember, it wasn't last year, the year before, I think, when we needed them to lose to Tottenham in that game in hand that they conveniently put in the week of the end of the season. I think they played Forest away and Chris Wood missed a couple sitters, and they played another one, I can't remember which was, someone missed a sitter, and you thought, God, if any of these sitters went on, we win the league. And you really start to go the fine margins. And for a team that are actively under investigation, you expect things not to fall their way as often as they do, but they seem to. And again, this isn't a ref thing; it's nothing like that. It's just it's just pure luck, I think. Maybe, luck is for losers, and maybe you create your own luck. Maybe, do you know what I mean? Like, I think I've noticed that this year because if we talk about the Leeds game, again, they should have scored eventually at the end of the half, right at the worst time to concede. Semenyo, but this is without Haaland in the squad as well, and you could tell. But I think it was Aït-Nouri finds Semenyo. He's in the right place at the right time. 6 goals already for Man City in the league, I believe. He gets that goal, and I think for the first 20 minutes of the second half, I think Leeds were a bit shell-shocked, a little bit tired, but they grew into it, and my God, did they put them under pressure. People talking about how nerve-wracking the Arsenal-Chelsea game was at the end. It is, but you have to try and put yourself in the shoes of a City fan. I'm sure they would have been absolutely petrified at the end of that game. And again, this is when we're going to get to narratives of that was a professional. That's how you win. That's what champions do. That was the conversation around it. Pep was smiling a lot. People were saying, "You never have to be good. You just got to win." And obviously, we all know what happened in the Arsenal-Chelsea game as far as narrative, which we'll get to in a moment. It is interesting, and I agree. I actually agree. I think that is, we have this false memory of how teams win leagues. And I think people, and especially the pundits and that, I think they assume that these teams that go on to win the league, when there's like 10, 15 games to go, they just blow everyone away 5-0, and then it's just who wins the most games by the most goals. And it's like, this never happens. It's not about bottling it. It's not about nerves. Well, it is about nerves. It's about anxiety. It's about trying to get over, like, it's tiredness. It's you're fighting on 4 different fronts, and it's no easy feat to go to Leeds. They're the 3rd most informed team. Maybe not now, actually, because of United, but since the end of December, or the start of December, they were like the team that had lost the least after Arsenal and City. This is a good team. And, 5:30, like I talked about in the preview, lots of time to get some drink in. The atmosphere's up. 5:30, Ellen Road, historic place, no Haaland in the squad. That's hard. And sometimes you're not... 50% of the time in that league, if you're going to win it, they're going to be scrappy. But if it keeps ending with you winning, you're doing something right. It doesn't matter about the eye test. It doesn't matter about what people say. If you're winning more than you're losing, you're the best team, And that's what they did. They got it over the line. Mark Gay really looked, was making sure that was not, he was keeping that clean sheet. And they got it. And again, quietly underneath all this, they're getting a lot of clean sheets. I think they've only conceded, it's 5 more goals than us. And you think, maybe even 4. When you think of Arsenal and City this year, you kind of think they score a lot, but we concede less. but we've actually scored more goals and conceded less, which is interesting. But also, it's not that far off. Either of them are very close. So very matched in that sense. And the narrative that City are a great watch and they're really fun and they always have been is so nonsense to the current Arsenal team, and they're not very fun. No, there's never been a more boring era than Man City on top. The games, they just strangle the life out of teams. They don't give them the ball. It's very dull. I dare say passive. They just kind of keep the ball, no intention to go forward. They wait for you to slip. Then they strike, and they strike strong, and they usually score. Then once they're 1-0 up, you're never getting back in front. They keep the ball, and they just wander into a 2-0, 3-0 win. And you watch it and go, that was so... I literally would fall asleep during City games. It's that boring. And I always said, I hate it, but if Arsenal were ever like that, I would love it. Because, yeah, it's boring, but it's different when it's your team. You don't see the boringness. You just see at least I'm not in a stressful situation. I'm not panicking. And that's what Man City did for years. And so this concept that they're really good football and Arsenal aren't. I mean, we have the second most open play goals, the most set piece goals, or the most corner goals anyway, not set pieces, in the league. And you just think, and we're conceding the least. That would kind of usually show, most wins, most goals, least goals conceded. Isn't that kind of the best team? But instead, we're just in the way of the best team in the league, City. And I mean this. They're buying good players in the sense that they bought Semenyo and Gay. But I mean, if they're going to win the league, those two signings are what got them there. Because I think without them, I think they would have dropped more points by now. And I think there would be a bigger gap, and people would be there'd be less narrative or conversation around even the title race. But they didn't. They went out, they were active, and they went and bought more players, and they got the game over the line. And Neville talked about on his podcast, and he talks a lot of nonsense, but he talked about how City, if it was 8 times out of 10, they're playing before us. And I don't know how this is done, whether it's done on purpose or whatever it is, it's just worked out this way. But it is a huge benefit to play first, because we've done it a couple of times and they've reacted. They reacted really well when I think we won against someone at 3 o'clock. I think it might have been Sunderland. They then had to play Liverpool. They ended up winning that game. That's a big game anyway. But to do it after your rivals have won is huge. And again, there's other ways of it going. It's this week. I don't know. I can't remember. I think we're both playing at the same time on Wednesday. But the fixtures after that, because obviously we've got FA Cup next weekend, and we're against Mansfield, they're against Newcastle. And then I think it's midweek Champions League before we play again in the Premier League. So this Brighton game is going to be massive, simply because of the gap. There is a 10-day gap before we play again in the league. We're playing 5:30 on the Saturday, and Man City, they play on Wednesday, are playing 8 o'clock on the Saturday. So they're directly after us. They're against West Ham away. But there is, West Ham away, they should easily win that, right? But if we beat Everton, let's say, obviously we need to get through, we both need to get through our midweek fixtures this week. But if, let's say, we win our midweek fixtures, both of us, and then we get to that one, you do put pressure on, because they're going to be warming up and they're going to get back to that dressing room and they're going to go, what was the score? And if they go, Arsenal won 4-0, they're going to go, all right, we have to win. And again, that could be the motivation to get you actually more fired up. It could also be like, oh God, we have to win. No, whereas if they get back to that room and it goes, they lost, one, that could be motivating them even more to go win and let's get in front. But if we're drawn or something, it means they could play with more freedom, which is usually when better things happen, because they're thinking, well, if we draw, nothing changed, there's still time to do stuff. But again, that could also give a negative. So there's pros and cons to it, but I think there's more of a positive to playing first, getting out of the way. But if it does go wrong, more does it give the other team a big incentive. So them getting that game over the line, I think it's, we can't snuff our noses at what we've actually been doing. And I think that's what I want to kind of talk about. And in the City game, there was a couple of decisions that we'll get to now as well, which was the Cherky stamp and the handball. I don't actually remember who it was. It might have been Mark Gahey. I don't know. I'm going to say it right now. I don't think either are penalty. I don't either are red or a penalty. I really don't. And I know you. The problem is the inconsistency. If I look at that completely unbiased and just look at it, I don't think it's a penalty. I think it's just happened to hit his arm. Does it stop the guy from getting a volley away? If his arm's not there, does it land it kind of to his body and he can volley it? Yeah. So in that sense, should it be a penalty? Probably. But it's one of those that I don't know. I would be kind of miffed. And again, that same decision wasn't given in the Arsenal game, and that benefited us as well. So any Arsenal fans out there saying they're handing City the title, you could say the same to us, because I think Chelsea could have had a couple of penalties yesterday. So I don't think much for that. Cherki, the stamp, I know what people mean, because we see this a lot. They kind of do that thing where they kind of throw their foot back a yard to kind of set off, knowing full well there's going to be a player there. I don't know. I don't know if he actually tries to, and if he doesn't put any weight through it. So I think people are just clutching at straws a little bit and saying, we want a reason that if it all goes tits up, we can look back at these exact moments and go, well, if that had happened, this would have happened. I think you can't think like that. That's football. And we see that yesterday. There was 3 or 4 moments in that Chelsea-Arsenal game that could completely change the outcome of the Premier League. And if some went with us, some went against us. Either way, you get the win. And talking about decision, I just want to kind of quickly gloss over some of the stuff we saw Saturday and a little bit early on Sunday. Starting at Saturday, I think Brentford-Burnley, unbelievable game. 3-0 up Brentford, get to 3-3. Then there's a goal, and it's, I think Burnley score it. This is my big issue. Is the one thing we all kind of say is that goal line technology and offsides, albeit frustrating sometimes, not necessarily goal line technology, but offsides, we go, but at least we have a formula. It's 100% accurate. Well, we think 99% accurate. Plus, it's kept to the same value, if you know what I mean. We all get marked the same, and we can deal with that. Like we said, if they come up with a handball rule, at least we all know what's a handball and what's not. But they don't. Like we said, that City one not given, the Arsenal one not given. But then you see something in another game and you go, it's given. Perfect example is obviously on the Sunday, Man United, Cunha gets through on goal. I think Lacroix pulls him back. It starts outside the box. It goes inside the box. Double jeopardy rule doesn't exist. So he ends up getting sent off. And obviously everyone's saying, well, do you remember the Mark Gahey foul on Salah before City went on to win that game? Which, if you remember, I think it's Salah's throw on goal on the kind of right channel going into the box. And last man, Gahey just pulls him down. It carries on into the box. But they say it started outside the box. Here's a free kick and here's a yellow card. Then the Cunha one starts outside the box, goes inside the box. He not just gives a penalty, but he gives a red card. This is the issue, is if they say to us that wherever the contact initially started, that's the rule, and it's held that 100% of the time across the league, we can all live with that. If they say it's where it ends, we can live with that. I think it's less, because you know what's going to happen is, because when someone touches their shoulder, do you know what they don't need to do? Go down. They're just letting the ref know, he's got my shoulder. I know I can't get a shot away. Could you get him? I need a foul here. Because it is illegal to touch their shoulder. But what they're doing is they're just running until they get into the box. Then they're going down. And that's exactly what Cunha did. And that's exactly what Salah did to an extent. But in one decision, it went that way. And with the other decision, it went the other way. And you think of ramifications. Obviously, Man United, 3rd place, looking very strong. Some people talking about title challenge here. And Palace, could get dragged into a relegation battle. This is really important moments. And one of their main centre-backs, if not their main centre-back, being missing now for 3 games is huge. There's a ramification. And then you look across the other game that I was talking about. Liverpool go on to win that game. They were already 1-0 up at that time, I think it was. Maybe 1-1. Gahey misses 3 games. And it's a penalty. So they go 2-0. They go up anyway, probably. Most likely. Title challenges. Liverpool going for top 4. There's so many ramifications. So it's so unfair to kind of, be inconsistent. And what happened with this Burnley one was he's offside. And this is what I was going to say was goal line technology and offsides are the only thing we're kind of 100%, because they say handball and they go, was it deliberate? Well, there's no way of knowing. We're guessing. Whereas offside, there's no guessing. Goal line technology, no guessing. Here's my issue with offside. It's happening a lot. I don't know who it is on the left-hand side for Burnley, but they get put in, he crosses it, it comes out, then someone gets it in. So it's 2 more passes. They go back a couple of phases to this moment. and rule it off for out for offside. My issue is, obviously you have to go to their furthest point, but you can't go to a fingertip or a hand or anything like that. What they say is it's the bicep. We all know a bicep's about 3 inches, yeah? 3 inches is the difference between whether I decide to put it at the end of your bicep or the start of your bicep. And this is what's happening. And for a bit there, they said the end of the sleeve, but people have shorter sleeves than longer sleeves. Here's 1 or 3 inches difference is a difference. So what is annoying is the way in which they steeled it, he's offside by maybe an inch, and it's his sleeve. And it's right at the end of his sleeve. And you're thinking, well, if they decided on this day they were going to do it in the middle of the sleeve, then he's on. Because I've seen them do it where it's down and it's almost at the shoulder. So if they do it at the shoulder, he's on. Oh, sorry, he's well off. But if they do it at the end of his shirt, he's well on. If you do it in the middle, it's borderline. They end up doing more to the end, so therefore he's off. And I just think that, if we're not going to we can't have a direct, I think it just has to be shoulder. I think remove the rest of it. I think we're getting to, who has a longer arm, all these kind of things. And I know before it was anything you could score with, so you can score your shoulder. And everyone says, yeah, but you can score your bicep because up to the Premier League badge, that's a goal. I can guarantee if someone scores with their bicep, they're going to disallow it. So that's rubbish. So I think it should be shoulder is the, shoulder, head, knee, any of the body down to the toe, just not anywhere beyond the shoulder. And then they know. Because this has happened a lot, and I just think they kind of pick and choose, and you'd think that when they pick and choose, they'd think, cynical mind, okay, this is 4-3, big comeback, huge ratings, massive numbers on the highlights, and it didn't affect them. No one called for it because it didn't look offside. No one cares, and if they just drew the line a millimetre down, no one would even have noticed, and he would have been on. And the difference between that is Burnley staying up or not, and it's just such ramifications. And in the end, they don't give it. But Brentford go and score in the 94th minute. Then they score Ashley Barnes in the 98th minute or something like that for the draw. And here's the next one. Is my frustration with this is it comes in. It kind of ricochets back. It hits him in the stomach / arm maybe, and then he volleys it in. He runs off, kind of doing the we need one more. This game's crazy enough. We might be able to win this. And I've seen Havertz, I've seen a couple of players from Arsenal score a goal where you think, not handball, but maybe was there a push in there? Did I have someone's shirt? Was I standing in offside position? They all run off and they kind of cover their mouths. I know you're not supposed to. And you can see them kind of saying just give it a minute. I don't know. Just so you don't over celebrate and look silly. He makes himself look mega silly. And again, this could be reverse psychology. He might think, it's hit my arm. If I act overly confident, they won't notice. Maybe. Because he runs directly to the penalty, to the centre spot. And he's shouting at everyone. But he's doing their head-on-head thing with his teammates. And I was thinking, it's not like he's borderline offside and he doesn't know. He'll know if it hit his arm. And if he's doing all that, knowing it hit his arm, he's a bit of a nutter. But my issue with it is it was given on field. They then look at it for ages. 5 minutes, apparently. 4 or 5 minutes. If you showed that to a room full of people, 10 people, and they show all the angles, 5 people will say, I think it hit his arm, and 5 people will say, I don't think it hit his arm. So would you describe that as clear and obvious to overturn a goal? And that's what I mean. That's my issue, is they do that and they don't think it's enough to overturn, but they get involved in other things sometimes. You think, that's actively ruined a game, and no one noticed it. None of the other team, Brentford team, thought it was a handball. No one appealed for it. Burnley players didn't act like they thought it did. From one view, it does feel like it hits it, but in the other view, when they zoom in, you're like, I don't think it does. I think it's his stomach, it's just his arms there. And we might be getting to a position with forwards like we were with centre-backs where they don't want to handball it. They put their arms behind their back and they're off balance and they defend poorly. We could be in a position where when players try and control it, they just throw their hands in the air. But they're not allowed to in case it touches their hands. It's unnatural. And they'll say, well, it touched his arm. He then directly scored, therefore we have to remove it. All right. Well, Dorgu scored against Arsenal. It clearly touched his hand. And then he put it in top bins from 30 yards. Unbelievable. But if that rule is the rule that they've said is 100%, is if the guy who handballs it then scores, it has to be disallowed. But their reasoning there was they couldn't decide 100%. But I'd say 7 out of 10 people would say it was a handball, that one. So make your mind up. Do you know what I mean? That, and it's such fine margins. But I mean, these are things for teams relegating or people winning the league, and it's so inconsistent. And I was talking about luck is for losers. You make your own luck. Tottenham, as much as I enjoyed that game, they go against Arsenal, and I think rightly so, get a goal chalked off. Two-handed shove in the back, clear as day. People were moaning about it, like, didn't take much, blah, blah. Yeah, because if he doesn't sell it, he probably doesn't give it. He has to sell it. But it's illegal. You can't. If you got to be, you got to be a bit tighter to the body and then that. You got to hide it a little bit. You can't just arms extended 2 feet from your body, push a guy as he jumps. Like, that's just a foul. I know people are going to debate that. It's a clear foul. Is it soft? Yeah, it does look soft, but it's a clear foul. And then this week, they get a shove in the back where he can't defend it. Headers back across. Harry Wilson scores. And they look at it for ages and go, nah, it's fine. And this is that thing of, is it enough to overturn? If in the Spurs game, the ref blew up for a foul before it went over the line. And we've had this issue as well. Therefore, if they don't, if VAR might have gone, do you know what, I think it is soft. And he go, but you gave it, so I'm not overturning it into a goal. And you blew up, so I can't give the goal. That was the issue they got into. Whereas this one, if he blew up before that went in, we would have gone, yes, it's a push in the back. So they're on the receiving end of, and this is what, and I spoke to a Spurs fan this week, and I said, as much as I do obviously enjoy seeing Spurs lose, you're in the vortex that we were in. We're not so much in it now, touch wood, last couple of years, where, I talked about in the podcast a million times, 2 cats stand there and, PGMO go, it's 2 dogs there. And we go, no, they're cats. And then they go, yeah, you're wrong. And you're like, what? You're making us feel crazy. And you're always on the receiving end. Like, a couple of years ago, obviously, that Newcastle goal. They let it play out. And I don't mind letting it play out, but let VAR make the decision then. Don't do all this, is it enough to overturn? Because they're deciding to blow the whistle. For example, that North London derby, he blew that whistle before it went across the line, so therefore we can't give a goal. He killed the game dead. So there's nothing to overturn. They cannot overturn it. Whereas if he lets it play out and goes, all right, VAR, figure it out. And they go, yeah, there's a push in the back, it's a foul. All right. Let them ref it, they're refs. Let them do it. All this, we don't want to over-ref the ref. We saw what happened the other week when there was no VAR. The refs are awful. So let a group of them try and ref it like you would in the NFL or rugby or anywhere. Because, yeah, we had that Newcastle game. It goes out of bounds. It's then a push in the back. Then he's offside. And you're thinking, okay, well, one of them's going to disallow it. And he lets it play out and you think, cool. Then they go, there's not enough evidence. We don't know if he's offside because we can't get a camera angle. We can't get a camera angle for the out of bounds. I think it's too soft. He pushes him in the back with 2 hands. Yeah, but it's too soft. But then this year you're deciding it's fine. And then in the next game it isn't fine. It's that really destroys you. And we got caught in that because then we score a goal against Villa, would have won us the league. In the 90th minute, Havertz, he goes up in the air, he handles it a little bit, and then he ends up scoring. But as it's about to go over the line, he blows up and says, handball. They then check it, and the Villa player handballs it first. So therefore it has to be a penalty. But because he blew up, they don't want to intervene with it. And you're thinking, but if you just let it all play out, at least they could have gone, oh no, it's a goal. Because he handles it, then he handles it. It's, it chalks each other off. Or you can go back and give us a penalty. But they kind of blow it dead. It happened again in Liverpool last year. Havertz again, and then Jesus, and they say it was too strong a header. But if he lets it go in, they can figure out, was it a foul? But instead, as he's literally through on goal, he's around the keeper, just got to tap it in, blows up as he goes to kick it. And you think, now you're giving yourself no chance to give the goal. It cannot be given. If you just let it play 1 more second, even if it goes over the line, then blow your whistle and go, I think it's a foul. Then they can go, yeah, I think you're wrong. But this whole, don't want to re-ref the game, and it has to go because teams end up in these vortexes, and we did. I feel like this year we touch wood. I'm sure it'll come back and get us, but we've not been quite as in there. We've had the Gyökeres penalty at Newcastle was overturned because it wasn't. He gave it on the field, but it was enough to overturn. And then we've seen penalties exactly like that given, particularly to City against Liverpool, that again is directly affecting us. We won that Newcastle game, but if you're sticking by that law that we had to deal with, City would have drawn that game. And with a draw, we'd be better off right now in a Tata is. And then you think of Fulham, Saka got absolutely wiped out and they thought it was a dive. Then they realised he need him and it was awful. It should have been penalty. We end up winning that game. It's a bad decision. But you end up in these, sometimes this year, we're winning those games still, even with the bad decisions. And then, for example, the Chelsea game we're about to talk about, there's some bad decisions, but they benefit us. So we'll talk about that now, actually, because we'll get deeper into the Arsenal-Chelsea game now. And I have a general disappointment with the narrative around this game. Um, Liverpool won 5-2 on the Saturday. They won it with set pieces. They have now scored 7 of their last 9 Premier League goals have been set pieces. They're now top of the all set piece table. And then it's us and there's Newcastle. After yesterday, it's us, then Newcastle, yeah. So they're top. I'm going to BBC Sport. This is a headline from... Let's have a look. I don't know when it was. Start of the season. 10 games into the season. Why Arsenal are being called the new Stoke? Corners again. BBC Sport this week after the West Ham game. New set piece kings. Liverpool can still achieve something beautiful. And then underneath, Liverpool dominant and win over West Ham. And you want to know why Arsenal fans feel like they're going crazy with narrative and pundits. It's right in front of our face. It's the dog and cat thing again. That's why we get frustrated. At the start of the season, you know, the narrative shifts, and like there's typical narratives we can talk about. Champions win dirty, they win late, you know, they do all these things, they find a way of winning. These are things that have lived forever, and we've used it in the past. I've used it in the past for other teams because I've been watching title races from afar for many years until the last 3 or 4. These are all things I expect. Not once have I ever thought, do you know what, United are scoring a lot of set pieces. Do you know what I mean? Or, you know, they've scored a lot of set pieces here. And I think this year, do I think there's a slight, not issue, is there a set piece thing happening? Yes. I mean, I watch Match of the Day and there's goals galore, and I felt like all of them were from a set piece. It really did feel like a majority of goals were coming from set pieces. That's because people got better at it. And do you know what's going to happen? People are going to get better at defending them. And then people are going to get back to scoring from open play. And it's not because teams are playing for set pieces to then score them. It's just they're very good at them. And what's happened forever is, per game, if you're a betting person, bet responsibly, it's usually 10 corners a game. Probably about 5 or 6 free kicks in dangerous areas per game. There's throw-ins given in the area where you could get it in the box. It's happened forever. Stoke did it forever. We all loved it. We all thought it was brilliant. It was a way that they could upset the big boys, and they did. And they kept them in the league for a long time doing it. What I think the issue is people don't like someone winning a league that way. And I just want to show you something. I'll show you something. I'll tell you something. If I click off that, I'm clicking the wrong thing. So, most goals from corners scored in the Premier League season ever is 16. That was Oldham in 92-93. They went on to just secure safety. We had West Brom in 16-17. They ended up being actually mid-table that year. Then the next 16 is Arsenal 2 years ago. And if you remember that year, that was the year everyone talked about how unbelievable we were. We should have won it, and we lost out on goal difference. 1 point at the end of the season. People couldn't get over how good we were. 16. And then 25-26, this is this year, Arsenal 16. We have 9 games to go. Do I think we'll score more corners? Yes. If you look at 16 out of 30 games, it's probably 1 every 2 games. Probably got another 3 or 4 in us, probably. I'd say another 3 will go in this year, in my opinion. I think people's issue with it is it's because it's no one's ever, like I said, it was mid-table and secured safety. But the problem is 2 years ago we were doing this, and everyone lauded it. Well, not everyone, but they weren't questioning it. This year it's being heavily questioned. I think the issue is because the rest of the league's got good at it. And what Arteta said was 2 years ago when we were doing that, he said this is the way the league's going in the next couple of years. We want to be the poster boys for it. We want to get ahead of it, be the best at it before it beats us. That's what he did. What are we right now? The best at it, other than Liverpool. Liverpool are literally the best. And that's what's so funny is, you have Arne Slot at the start of the season complaining about the way teams played against him, which is the most bizarre reason to moan as a football manager, in my opinion. Like, you can moan decisions, you can moan, tackles, all these things, fixture build-up, whatever it is. Can't really complain about the way teams play against you because that's their prerogative. They can play how they want. And he was complaining all season about Arsenal's set pieces. It's just set pieces. Guess what? You got more set pieces than us now. And he was so smiley about it, saying we've got really good at it. And he said, and what's been great is it's also coincided with our turn of form. Yeah, because you've got good at set pieces, which has been winning you games. It's almost like they're a part of games. It's almost like an NFL team saying we don't need special teams, and then going, oh, do you know what should we do? And then you're returning a couple of touchdowns, winning a couple of games, and going, it's so weird. We're winning more games, and now we're returning touchdowns. Like, yeah, because you're winning games because you're returning touchdowns, because you're missing a whole part of the game. So it's just so ridiculous. And I think something we have to accept is the league, I think it's a league-wide, I don't want to say problem. I don't think it's a problem, but it's a league-wide thing. And because we are top, and we also coincide with being the best at it, more corners than set pieces. We don't really get many. We don't score many free kicks. We don't score penalties. We don't get penalties. So it's more that. Whereas other teams, you look at Man United and teams like that, like it's a lot of it's penalties and things like that. So when you kind of do look at it, I don't think it's necessarily an us issue. I think it's a league kind of thing, and then we're just, because we happen to be top, we're going to take the brunt of it. And I think that's just something we're going to have to accept. Arsenal set-piece goals, Premier League this season. Games without scoring from a set-piece this season. Games without scoring from a set-piece this season, 13. Games won without scoring a set-piece, 4. So that means of those 13, we only won 4 of them. The other 9 we must have drawn or lost. Again, we lost 2-0 against Liverpool. And against Villa, I don't remember how we scored. God, that's so interesting, isn't it? Should be fresh in my mind, because I know against Man United we did score a set piece. So that means majority, that's 7-8 draws without a set piece. And that's my issue, is the reason we got good at set pieces, obviously the league was going that way, Arteta kind of openly spoke about it, was we have been forever joked about being too weak from set pieces, not good at set pieces, awful at defending set pieces. We're a pushover, we're light, play nice football, but we're just, too soft to touch. So we went and got good at set pieces. And the other big gripe was, and we can see it as Arsenal fans, is we're really bad against the low block. And this is my main takeaway. Those 2 years, the first 2 years we challenged, our big comeuppance was going against any team with a big low block. We didn't know how to break them down, couldn't come up with it. And the thing is, it's not because, we're not talented enough. No team likes playing against a low block. Because to break a low block, you need one of 3 things. A bit of luck, slice of luck, a shot that deflects into the way of someone and he slots it home. Because once the goal's there, once that goal goes in, the block is gone. And I know teams would say, like, you're playing Palace, they decide they're going to do 11-man, park the bus, low block. If you score in minute 7, they're going to continue the way they play until minute 88, when they're going to then explode up the field, try and get that goal. But the thing is, that's always coming then. Whereas if it's 0-0, they might not ever actually trigger it, because they'll go, do you know what, we're happy with the draw, and this is quite comfortable. But that one goal usually does change it, because there's usually an immediate reaction or a reaction later. But it changes something. It changes. It's same as you're a kid and you play 3 and in, you're in goal. You're playing unbelievable. You've been in there for 15 minutes. You're saving everything. And all of a sudden 1 goes in. All of a sudden 2 and 3 go in. Do you know what I mean? Because you're kind of like, I'm less interested. And professionals shouldn't be like that. But I think there's a mentality that we all have naturally of like, oh, that's such a shame. I don't know. It's something changes. Your concentration maybe down a percentage. But yeah, you need a slice of luck, a bit of magic, or a set piece. It's the only 3 things. Luck you can't abide for. You can just keep trying stuff. Bit of magic kind of falls under the same thing, because either someone's going to find that perfect pass somehow against the low block, someone's going to switch off, which is a bit more of an error, a bit of luck, or someone's going to have a long-range shot that goes over the whole low block and in the top corner. But again, it's so rare. The one thing you can guarantee with a low block is you're going to win a lot of corners and a lot of throw-ins, because teams are going to shield that box. And they're going to block every cross. They're going to block everything. They're going to header it behind. They're going to do anything they can just to stop you playing with the ball inside their box. And they feel like, oh, okay, well, if you give away a set piece, it's fine. How many times have you heard the commentators say, well, push the team out wide, because these centre-backs are just so comfortable having them just keep cross it. Header that one away. It's practice. So what we did is we became so unbelievable at set pieces that teams now in their low block are terrified. They do not want to give away a corner. So therefore, they're trying to keep it in bounds, which means, therefore, the low block is compromised, because they're not playing how they would in a perfect low block. So instead, some teams just go, do you know what, we will, and we'll just defend it. And they do well. Some teams do it, and they defend it, and then they score. We score, and then it breaks it open, and they think, oh, what a nightmare. And we were a little bit of a strange, not a strange side, but like, last week, for example, we scored 4 goals away from home in a North London derby, not one set piece goal. We just scored 4 open play goals because they played not to worry about our set pieces. They played not to worry about low blocking. They just played football and we destroyed them. Then you go against, for example, not so much Chelsea, but you play Sunderland a couple of weeks ago. They did a nice low block. We got a goal. Zubimendi, long range, bit of magic, near post. Game's open then. Then you go and get 2 and 3, and Gyökeres is free on a channel and scoring goals like that. That's the stuff that changes over, when you break a low block. And yesterday's game was that perfect example. But what I can't stand is the narrative that during that whole game. I just wanted to say about the league-wide issue is goals scored from set pieces in last year, 380 games was 135. This year we're at 138 with 100 games remaining. So we're already over it, and we've got 100 games left. Per 100 games, you'd think there's probably another 80, I'd say, to score. So that's from corners. That's not even set pieces. So there's a lot of interesting things like that. But the narrative in that game that was really frustrating for me. There was a few things. Obviously, we shouldn't get caught up in too much of what commentators are saying because, we go, oh, Gary Neville says this. It doesn't matter what Gary Neville says. But the frustration is they're saying stuff that you see online, and that's becoming then the general actual narrative and consensus. And they talk about narrative being something that could stop you winning a league and all this kind of stuff, and the noise, they call it. But you're creating the noise. Neville's going on his podcast and saying, I think you can see the noise is getting to them. Yeah, you are the noise. You're the noise. You're trying to create it. And it's no different in these games because I've watched Arsenal versus Man City Carabao Cup final. We lose 3-0. I've watched us for 60 minutes chase shadows while Neville and commentators tore us apart. They're soft. They don't know how to win. And there's no steel. They have to play nice football, otherwise they can't do anything. Blah, blah, blah. I've had to sit through all these. I've sat through Wenger, and I say sat through Wenger as if it's a negative. Unbelievable, best manager of our history. But I've also sat through many a year where we came top 4, played clearly the best football in the league. Easily. And we didn't win. And everyone kept going, I don't care how many shots you have or how much ball you have or how well you play. It's about results. It's a results business. And we go, yeah, well, guess what? Now we get results. And sometimes we don't play very well. And like City the night before, where it was, that's what champions do. Ours was not. So it was, they're nervous. They're not at it. It's not impressive. And throughout that game, and it was, it really felt, we won a game 2-1, and I really felt we were never in that game. But I also don't think Chelsea were ever in it. And whatever reason, I said this in the preview, Chelsea at the Emirates, something gets a bit gammy, gets a bit weird. I mean, last year we won 1-0, wasn't a very good game. No one really created anything. We just won with a set piece. This year in the Carabao Cup, we broke away. We won at the end. This year we win again. Again, what's the common denominator? We win. That's the difference, And this one was gammy as well, and I expected it to be gammy, and that's not a bad thing. It's not a fun watch, and it was 3 set pieces in the game, and Neville was talking about Cole Palmer finding all these pockets. He's so dangerous. Look how good he's playing. By the time he said that, it was about 25, 30 minutes in. Cole Palmer touched the ball 6 times, and one of them was a wafty volley that nearly went out for a throw. So it's just like, when you're hearing it, you're like, oh yeah, and you naturally start thinking, oh God, yeah, he is finding a lot of space. And then you're like, but he's only touched it 6 times. So, you know what I mean? Like, it's easy to go stand in space. If not getting the ball to him, like, it's not really that dangerous, but you stop panicking. And it's the same I've watched us with Raya and him doing what he did to Sanchez yesterday. And I think Sanchez's one was a lot more probably understandable. But Ray's there with Ray. Oh my God, look, he's at it today. We end up winning 3-0. And by the end, no one's talking about it. For the first 40 minutes, he's just talking about how Arsenal's goalie's going to chuck it in his own net. And look at the nerves, and he's making noise, and he's thinking, as a fan, you're like, oh my God. And you're just like, by the end, you're like, what? He held the ball longer because he was trying to draw him out. And that's what won us the game. And you're like, what a strange, you know what I mean? Like, I know he's not a very good coach, but you'd think that, he kind of gets in his head what that narrative that day is going to be. And I think he struggles to get out of it because do I think Chelsea were the better team in the first 30 minutes? Yeah, I'd say so. Marginal, though. I don't think we were in the game. Like, I've never seen us that lot. Like, even though we were touching the ball a lot and their possession was only slightly more than us, it just felt like we didn't really ever have the ball, even though we did. It was very, I don't know how to explain it. But the silence post us scoring was hilarious. The commentary, it just went dead quiet. We're like, oh, like the air got taken out. And this only happens when Arsenal score a set piece and or Arsenal score. But it's really funny because it's almost like, you know, when really good teams aren't at the races, they find a way of scoring. So we rely on old Trusty. Get a corner in. Perfect delivery. Gabriel absolutely bodies them. Back across, Saliba. It might be an own goal. I think he's going to get given it. But just when you watch it, there's an art to it. Like, it's a real quality. Like, it's not, oh, they just get a lot of penalties and they're all a bit suspect. It's like, no, we honestly just win corners. Then we honestly just put in one of the best deliveries you'll ever see every single time. And then we have a guy like Gabriel who is so dangerous, so obsessed with winning that ball, and he does. It's such a threat, and it's so, you know, if you don't like it, stop it. Go get someone who's going to be that obsessed with defending him. Because Harry Maguire did it great against us. He was obsessed with stopping it, and he did. You know, so it's not, it's like it's unstoppable. Teams just do better, you know. It's just a strange concept. But it went silent, and then they had a little spell there where they won a couple of corners, and it was coming, wasn't it? Because I think it's the corners were the actual talking point of the whole game. There were 3 goals and the 3 talking points outside of the 3 goals. What came next was they had a corner that was so dangerous, and I think Capier kind of ducked, hit the side netting, and I thought, nah, the way that we're defending it, there's a flick on coming, there's a goal. There's no way of defending that. If they can keep hitting that exact delivery, and Reece James hit it again. On this one, it nearly goes in. Ray makes an unbelievable save, but it's off of Rice's arm, almost like his low bicep. Do I think it's a penalty? It looked like a penalty to me. The thing I would say is, obviously, I didn't think the Leeds one, the Man City one against Leeds was. I don't think it's something we should be worrying about. And I feel like this is in the same thing. The only thing I didn't like was, like, when you looked, and if people say we have the dark arts, we use a lot of physicality. When you actually watch most corners, teams are holding us, we're not holding them. But my word, were we holding them. Zubimendi had his back to the ball, doing the Odegaard roll, just 2 arms around. When you still shot that, I think, like, Gyökeres is just bear hugging a guy with his arms. Like, holding the guy's arms by his, like, body, so he can't move. Rice has got the guy's arms. And they were saying on the VAR, I think, like, it's only caused because of the jump. And it is, I agree. Rice isn't trying to handle that. It's just the guy jumps and it throws his arm up. But the only reason his arm's there is because he's hugging the guy, which is not a good look, you know. The City one was more of like, it just dropped on the arm, he didn't know it was there. Whereas the Rice one, like, he was in the wrong place, that's why it hit him. The only thing I would say is if it misses him, I think we just clear it. It wasn't the best deliverer of the bunch. Instead, the actual handball nearly scored. So it kind of benefited them. So I don't know if they look at that. But either way, I was a little bit, oh, we got lucky then. And the next one comes in, and Capier kind of flicks it on, can't get to it. And I just thought, for a team so good at defending and scoring set pieces, you'd think that maybe they would go forward like a yard. Like that bunch at the front. Just get forward a yard, because you know what they're doing. They're not a team that I think are going to switch it up like us. Like, you know, everyone comes to near post, we go to the back, and we have routines. I think their routine was get it in the near post. That's when they have the most trouble. And we do concede a lot from that near post. And Reece James can deliver an unbelievable pinpoint every time. And he did. And you just felt it coming. They get the flick on from Capier, own goal, and it goes in. And we go into the half 1-1, you think, I'm not liking the look of this. I don't feel overly nervous about them, but I do feel nervous about how we're playing. And again, do I think it's a Botley type nervousness? Nah. Just the way they play against us. I don't know what it is. It's just they make us all gammy. That's the word I use. Because it kind of stifles it. I don't know what it is. And then the second half, I think they're in it, but they've not pushed on, you know. They're not going for it. And eventually we do get actually at 1-1, I think is when João Pedro, another one of these corners, we give away a few more in the second half. João Pedro at near post, Ray kind of decides, I guess at half time, like, I'm going to come at them to get rid of this ball because I'm sick of that near post. He misses it, I think. I haven't seen it I haven't seen it a lot, but from first glance and a couple, like, the replays at the time, I haven't seen it since, but he punches the guy. And you think of, you know, there's one that was notoriously not given, that we've seen like that, and we've also seen some given this year like that. So I think we got a little lucky with that one as well. And they kind of looked at it and said, like, yeah, no, it's minimal contact or something. And I thought, he has a big bruise on his head. Like, it doesn't feel like minimal contact. So I think we got away with that one as well. I think the Gyökeres penalty, the one where he said he dives, I don't think it is. I think he comes in from the side, he gets the ball, but he also studs up on his ankle. And I think there's a case that could have been also a penalty. So I think there was potential 3 penalties in the game. But either way, we end up winning another corner. This time was Declan Rice's delivery. Saka was for the first one. And I think it's Timber. Timber is Timber, isn't it? Yeah, Timber scores it. And this is also the first game in which a back four in the Premier League has been involved in both goals, for involved in every goal. So I think it was Gabriel assisted Saliba for goal 1, and Nketiah got a own goal, and then Timber scores the winner, which is really bizarre. But either way, it's pure corners. Corners have caused the potential penalty chances, and also the goals all came from corners. And I think that's just what happens, because I remember so many Arsenal-Chelsea games at the end of seasons where they were either going for a title or we were going for a title. And it didn't matter if the other team was in the top 4, top 6 or whatever. These games, especially when you're playing at your home, are always really tense. They're tight. They're London derbies. They're tough to kind of overcome. And the thing we can't sniff our nose at is that Arteta wins a lot of these. I think he's won, like Rossini has lost 3 games since he's been in charge of Chelsea, all 3 to Arsenal. We played them 4 times this year. We've beaten them 3 times. Like, that is not, like I said before, it's not a fluke. You can't fluke your way into doing that. And like, when you think of back-to-back, now zoom out slightly more. We talk about zooming out a lot on here. 7 day apart. We played 2 London derbies. 1 at home, 1 away. 1 was a North London derby. We score 6, concede 2, win 2. 4 open play goals, 2 set piece goals. 1 open play error, 1 goal conceded, 1 set piece goal conceded. But 6 points, 2 wins. And again, behind that, you got the Wolves game. I think that was a bit of a mess. I think that was a big wake up call. And then the Brentford game, I think is going to forever. I think it will go down as like just a point gained. And again, it's a game that you can't turn your nose up. It's like when City get that Leeds game won. Those games are really hard. Winning in the Premier League's hard. But to do it under pressure when a team's already played before you in a title race with 9 games to go, a team like Chelsea who are that good, it is so difficult to just win these games. Because there's no given, And it's going to be the same for City. City have still got to go play Villa and Chelsea away. Those games, we can look at that, And on at any random time, if you said, all right, City home to Villa, you go, yeah, Villa are good, but I think City will win it. But add that is the last day of the season. Could the season be still kind of up for grabs at that point? Do Villa need to win it now for the Champions League with their loss to Wolves this week, in the way they're dropping down the table a little bit? It's very hard, It's one thing to not lose a game, but at this point, you almost have to win every game. And that's the thing, is like, when I looked at Brentford away, Wolves away, Tottenham away, Chelsea at home, that's not a nice run. And I looked at it, I said 8 or 9 points. I kind of saw maybe, I kind of thought maybe a draw at Brentford, a win at Wolves, maybe a draw at Tottenham, and maybe a win at home. They've come in different ways, but it was a draw, win. No losses. We've lost 3 games in all competitions in 40 games, 41 games. It's a really good record, and you just can't turn your nose up at winning games like that. People can talk about the style. I don't care. What I care about is every time you play now, it's so tough to win. So every time you do get a win, because we are going to drop points, so are City, so are everyone. It's really hard to keep winning. So you've got to kind of turn around and go, Jesus, this is, what we're doing is really impressive. Like, we're in this. We haven't thrown it away yet. It could happen. And again, I do think we're 2 losses away in all comps. Like a week where we lose twice away from max exodus. Like, people just, Arteta out, this is rough, we've ruined it, And it's coming, because that's the thing we got to get kind of ready for, is we are going to go out of some competition soon. We are going to go, something bad's going to happen. Because it's either that or we're going to win a quadruple. And it's very unlikely. It's a 1 in a million chance of winning a quadruple. No one's ever done it. I don't think this Arsenal team is the one that's going to do it. So we got to be ready for some failure. Do you know what I mean? Like, it could be the Carabao Cup final. You got to be like, all right, dust yourselves off. Yep, didn't win it, but they have to go now, draw at City or win at City. And it is funny because I said to Lewis, obviously friend of the show, Elton Prince from WD, we can draw. If we keep winning out, we can get to the Etihad and just draw and just keep going and go, all right, 5 games to go. We can't lose. As long as we don't, if we win all 5, we're done. And he said, it's so funny that you instantly said draw at City. Like, you go there with the mentality. It's like, yeah, I get it, but it's like, it's really hard to go win at City. And I think if we go hell for leather there, yeah, there's a chance we win. But there's also a chance we get battered. And then the psychological effect and season effect of losing the season because of it is huge. So I think sometimes you got to kind of do that. And nothing's funnier than like Scholes on the overlap this week saying, I think Chelsea are actually going to do it. I think 0-0. You imply when you say someone's going to do it that they're maybe going to win. But it's just funny that people see that as doing it. And the thing is, we do. Like, I don't need City to lose. I just need them to draw. Draw's 1 point. It's so close to 0. 3 is so different. Yeah, and I just want to kind of also talk about a couple of things. The narrative was very frustrating because the whole game was, Arsenal, this is not it. You know, I don't care if they won, that's not it. And again, like I said earlier, we've had years and years of hearing that we're very good, but we're very soft and it doesn't really matter because you should win. We're now winning a lot. What I want to do is play the commentary when Drogba scored against us, when they were in a title race, and we were not involved in a title race. And we'd outplayed them. And then they score.
Ashley Cole. And Drogba! Same old story. Arsenal play the football. Chelsea have the goal. Brilliant. Absolutely brilliant.
Brilliant. Absolutely brilliant. Yeah. It's really annoying, right? And we've watched years of that. Where we outplay a team, they score. We've done it to Bayern Munich. We've done it to so many Barcelona, Chelsea, Man United, Liverpool, City. We've done it. We put on the best performance of our lives to then concede. And the narrative afterwards is Arsenal never going to win anything because they haven't got any steel. And they go, and the other team, Chelsea, whoever it is, they go, that's why they win stuff. Because they weren't at it today, but they won it. And after that game, there was no narrative of Arsenal got that over the line. That's what you do when you win leagues. It's so weird. It's so frustrating. Again, and that's why we feel mad as Arsenal fans, because we've imparted that kind of commentary into our lives, and the punditry and the narrative and our friends and the people online, and it's plummeted into everyone. So therefore, when they talk to us, it's like you're going mad. Like I did an experiment this week where I leveled with that Spurs fan to say, yeah, as an Arsenal fan, their reasoning was it's consistent because it's consistently against Spurs. And I think that's a fan thing to say. Fair enough. Remember when Arsenal fans ever said that? Or they always make excuses. Do you know what I didn't say to that Spurs fan? You make excuses. I went, yeah, I know how you feel. It's frustrating, isn't it? Because you're right. It was bad decisions. But you know when it happens to Arsenal and we go, oh, that's rubbish. It was inconsistent because it keeps screwing us. Or, you know, oh, moaning more. No, it's not going to change until we all, the fans all change, because that narrative sweeps across. And do you know what they'll say on, Yaya Toure comes on there, Man City legend. I'm an Arsenal fan, but I don't like where they play, so I think City should win it. What do you mean you don't like how we play? You got an issue with set pieces and being really good at open play goals and conceding not many goals and having a really young manager and loads of British players and really good players. And having a smaller wage bill than 5 other teams. And spending less than 5 other teams. I don't know what there's to dislike. Do you know what I mean? I think the unbeaten thing, really is like a curse that people have to hate us forever. But, when you actually just look at it, like, people are talking like almost like we need City to save the Premier League. This is a team that actively sports washed and about to get done for it. And they want teams like Neville was talking about Chelsea afterwards. They're 3 top players away from, challenging here. They should be challenging already. They've spent $2 billion. It's not our fault, because how you spend your money is so interesting, isn't it? They Garnacho, Delap, Neto, front 3, having spent $2 billion. Pedro, Esteval, and another person is on the wing, Mudryk. Is that a $2 billion team? £2 billion team? It's not, is it? And then people go, yeah, but Arsenal got the best squad. It's like, yeah, we still spent less than you. So that's your problem. Do you know what I mean? Like, because Trossard, Eze, Martinelli, Saka, Madueke, Gyökeres, Havertz, Jesus, Max Dowman, Wineri. It's an unbelievable squad up front, right? Moreno even at a push. But it cost less than putting together Garnacho, Delap, and Neto. Like, come on, like you know what I mean? Figure it out. It's like, and he said they just need a real good centre back, a real good midfielder, and a real good forward, all around 26, 27. And I agree, like, because they buy very young, so it's a young squad. Hence why they got 9 red cards now. I think it's petulance. I think it's just not understanding. Like, Neto did not need to do that yesterday. He's claiming he didn't know about the booking. There's clear footage of him getting the booking and arguing the first one, so that's nonsense. And I agree, like they do. Like, you know, if you go get Osman now, pull him out of is it Galatasaray, and he actively wants to join someone because I've never seen a player play for someone and actively talk about how good everyone else is. You know, you go buy Osman now. You know, they should have been in for Gyökeres. But if you go buy Osman to go with Pedro and Delap, guy, my word, I bet you thought the podcast finished there. You know, you got that proper, you know, player. You go buy Elliot Anderson and put in that midfield maybe. And then you go and buy a top centre-back. Mark Gay, for example. Not that it can be him now. But you buy those 3 players, yeah, you will compete. Same reason I think if Man United next year lose Bruno but gain Cole Palmer, but then they go and buy Elliot Anderson, and they go and buy maybe another centre-back, I think they really could challenge. I really do. I think they've got a good squad. The problem with them is I think their fullbacks are pretty poor. And that will eventually get them. I think they're having a great run at the minute. I think, you know, with their game in hand, they're going to be 10 points off the lead. We could easily lose 4 games. But it's needed like a purple patch, you know, and that doesn't mean anything. You know, I said from the start, I think they're very good. No one really believed me for some reason, including my best friend who's a Man United fan. I'm hoping he's changed his mind now. But they treat Chelsea like they're these underdogs. They were like, they play really good football. They're just a couple players, and it's like a couple more players. They've bought every player under the sun. They have like 100 players on contract. They have to like leave in like a training ground in Cobham somewhere. Like that's that in it. Like Man City, like, oh yeah, save us. Like, I just don't understand it. Where they should be sitting here going, this is unbelievable. England's best player in Saka, who's not Harry Kane. You know, leading his team. Big proper centre backs, set piece, almost 4-4-2 football. Eze pulling the strings. England. You know, Declan Rice looking for Ballon d'Ors. This is the team that they should be lauding and going, this is unbelievable that a team that we called soft for so long are now so steely. And let's just hope they can get over the line. But instead, it's with this other stuff. And maybe once you win it, maybe you get respect. Maybe that all changes. But time will tell. But for me, I'm just so happy with the points. We're still 5 points clear. That game in hand is dangerous. I'll stick with this. I really think sometimes, yeah, we're going to watch that City score, and we're going to talk about it on the podcast here, and we're going to pair us together a lot. I think if Arsenal can get through this Brighton, Everton, and someone, I can't remember who it is, they're winnable games. No easy task. I think no winning in the Premier League at this point is easy. But if you win them before that City game, I truly believe that City might drop a point. And you can go to the Etihad and almost go, let's draw, and you hold that 7 points, and you win that game in hand, 5 games to go. It's not in their hands. You can just go, all right, all of a sudden you just got to beat someone at home, like a Bournemouth. I'm not saying that's easy either. It's no easy games. But Burnley at home, you can go, all right, let's just win that game. And it's another game on where City go, we need them to draw 2 and lose 1 in their last 5. That's what we need them to feel like, this is over. And I think this little stretch here is so important. Because I think, for example, we drew to Brighton and they beat not West Ham. They got home to Forest, which I think they'll very comfortably win. You draw that one. It cuts it down to 3 points, right? The game in hand takes us level on goal difference. We'd be slightly up, but depending on how much that swings, they do feel like a team that could score more than us. At the minute, we're above them. But that Etihad game, they do win it, let's say. They're 3 points clear with 5 games to go. I don't think there's a way back for us. So I think it's not, like I said last week, it's not the actual thing, the target you're looking at. It's it's not the bullseye we're looking at. We just need to pick away at these, triple 19s and stuff, and just work our way in. Don't go for that kill shot and just kind of let chips fall where they may, because we can also win out and just draw the City game. It doesn't matter what they do. 9 games. We might have more games in other competitions than we do in the Premier League still to go. So there's a lot to go on. It's getting very exciting. So there's a lot to be done. And again, over on the Patreon, we're going to be covering all of this more regularly. So if you want more daily content, please go there. Please help us out and click the link below. I'll be back probably tomorrow, actually, on the Patreon, previewing the Brighton away game. Wednesday, Joe and I will be back here on the main feed, iTunes and Spotify, where we'll be kind of also talking about that game, but talking about the week that was and just the general consensus, Champions, a bit more into the Champions League, talking a bit about the FA Cup that's coming up. And then later in the week, maybe Friday, I'll drop a Mansfield, maybe Thursday actually, I'll drop a Mansfield podcast previewing that on the Patreon, because we're playing, I think, early doors on Saturday. So as far as schedule today, you got this here on the Patreon ad-free and on the main feed with the ads. Tomorrow on the Patreon we have a little preview for Brighton. Wednesday back here on the main feed and on Patreon ad-free. Thursday preview. Friday probably nothing there, have a little relax. Saturday we got the game. Sunday I'll probably get yourself a review up, and then Monday back here for that kind of instant reaction to what happened over the weekend. But that is us for now. We'll be back on Wednesday here on that main field, so we'll see you then. Bye bye.